Merrick Garland in the hot seat yesterday before the Senate Judiciary Committee, and his testimony was a scandalous outrage. That's where we're beginning this show. Michael Knowles will be here in 1 minute to react. Asked repeatedly about whether he will now withdraw his memo threatening to investigate and potentially prosecute parents whose behavior he does not like at school board meetings, Merrick Garland refused, saying threats of violence and violence are fair game for the DOJ. Wrong, sir. Wrong. Which we will get to in 1 minute. Remember the history here. The National School Boards Association wrote a letter to the White House complaining about loud parents, whom they suggested might be treated as criminals and domestic terrorists after many failed to comply with various protocols at school board meetings. Parents, understandably upset about CRT lesson plans shaming children for their race, about radical trans ideology being shoved down the throats of children as young as single digits, mask mandates everywhere despite the CDC's own comprehensive study of 90,000 children showing they do nothing, vaccine mandates for children irrespective of medical risks, X-rated books in school libraries that literally celebrate child rape, and on it goes. So yes, parents are especially concerned right now, and to their credit, they're voicing it. Well, after that National School Boards Association letter, which we now know was coordinated in advance with a White House that is clearly cognizant of the political damage these clips of angry parents could do to the president and Democrats nationwide, the DOJ immediately set to work, affirmatively declaring, without investigating at all, that, quote, there has been a disturbing spike in harassment, intimidation, and threats of violence against school board administrators, board members, teachers, and staff. Yes, they're the victims here. Attorney General Merrick Garland warned parents nationwide that he would, quote, use the DOJ's authority and resources to discourage these threats, identify them, and prosecute them when appropriate. In other words, he'll sic the FBI on you if you get out of line. That was October 4th. Since then, outrage has spread across this country and across political lines. A recent poll showed only 19% of Americans support the FBI monitoring and investigating parents in this way. Some 57% oppose, including the vast majority of Republicans and 63% of independents. Ultimately, school boards began bailing from the NSBA, and the group was forced to apologize for its incendiary letter and withdraw it, leading to demands that Attorney General Garland, who again admitted that the DOJ's involvement was based on that NSBA letter, stand down. Yesterday, he refused.
What does the National Security Division have to do with parents at school boards?
This is not, again, about parents at school boards. This is about threats of violence.
Okay, let me turn to that, because you've said that phrase repeatedly throughout the morning. Threats or violence and threats of violence. Violence and threats of violence.
Yeah. When they said that they were facing violence and threats of violence, and when I saw in the news media reports, this memorandum is aimed at violence and threats of violence.
Violence and threats of violence. Violence and threats of violence. This is why he got involved. First of all, this is a misrepresentation of what the NSBA alleged in its letter. The NSBA cited 26 alleged problematic incidents that it said warranted the DOJ's attention, the vast majority of which involved items like parents refusing to put masks on or cede their microphones when ordered to do so. Not threats of violence, nor any incidents of actual violence, as Mr. Garland now falsely claims. The only real allegation of this kind had to do with what happened in Loudoun County, Virginia, when the cops decided to arrest Scott Smith, a man we now know was upset because his superintendent was there lying about there never having been a rape in a school bathroom when Mr. Smith's 9th grade daughter had just been raped a week or two earlier, a crime for which the defendant boy has now been convicted. Other than that, there was one incident of alleged threats in Worthington, New York, in which a letter sent to the board there said, quote, we are coming after you and all the members of the board. You all should be tried for treason, end quote. This is not the stuff of federal law enforcement. For one thing, it's not illegal. For another, it is not within the jurisdiction of the Department of Justice. As Merrick Garland well knows, the DOJ cannot investigate or prosecute parents for alleged threats of violence, or as he claimed in his October 4th letter, quote, efforts to intimidate individuals based on their point of view, are free speech, protected by the Constitution. Incitement is speech that law enforcement can potentially attack as unlawful, but the bar for that is extremely high. In America, you are allowed to say things like, I could kill you, or you should be afraid, or we are coming after you. The law recognizes that in the vast majority of those cases, those are expressions of upset that are not legally actionable. In order to cross a legal line, the speech must 1, unambiguously, 2, call for the use of force, 3, that the speaker clearly intends, 4, under circumstances in which the likelihood of violence is both real and imminent. Not even arguably the case here. And there's no allegation that any of these alleged threats were ever acted upon. Same goes for Garland's other focus in his statement, efforts to intimidate someone's point of view. By the way, that's what he's doing. That's protected by the First Amendment as well. Even if any of the examples at issue here rose to the level of, quote, incitement, the DOJ would have no business inserting itself. None. The feds have no general police power. That is left to the states and local authorities. Even an actual attack on a school board member or a parent at a meeting would be handled by the local cops, not the FBI. That is what happened in Loudoun County, though Scott Smith did nothing wrong. Former prosecutor Andy McCarthy recently had a column in National Review outlining all of this and pointing out that this is an incredibly politicized DOJ, just like the one under the Obama-Biden administration, which, as Andy notes, quote, made the process the penalty. The investigation process, coupled with the threat of federal criminality, you're going to have the FBI in your business. That's the deterrent. How the case comes out is irrelevant. They did it with the IRS scandal, threatening conservative groups with the loss of their tax-exempt status, with the threatened takeovers of police departments that then AG Eric Holder deemed problematic, with the Dear Colleague letter they used to scare universities into eliminating due process for young men accused of sexual assault, and on and on. The end result is to silence and control those who could undermine this president's agenda. And that is why Merrick Garland is standing by his threats of investigation and prosecution. He doesn't want to punish lawbreakers. He and his pals at the White House want to stop the debate altogether.